Well, the mainstream media is now doing hit pieces against Sam Antar. They are saying he is a right-wing extremist working for Donald Trump secretly. They're saying Letitia James, she's an angel that would never commit fraud, maybe a mistake, but certainly never commit fraud. Sam Antar, thank you so much for joining me again.
Thank you, Stephen. Just one thing you left out, right-wing extremist fringe blogger.
Fringe blogger.
Fringe is very, very important. We have to get that out there.
Yeah, it's on the fringe. I appreciate you correcting me. Sam Antar has been instrumental in bringing out the fraud of Letitia James. He's also doing a deep forensic dive on George Soros and the Open Society Foundation. Let me jump in on this with you, Sam, because you're doing incredible work. So now you've got articles going out in Reuters, New York Times, CNN, other places. They're saying that Letitia James never committed fraud. And even the head of Fannie Mae agrees. And then they blame all of this on Donald Trump's revenge. Why are they wrong? Are they lazy in their journalism? Are they lying on her behalf? Is it both?
I think it's a combination of both, and I'll explain to you what it is. What they did was they took a memo between a couple of people at the FHFA, at Fannie Mae, FHFA, whatever you call those lettered agencies. And the person said that the loan by itself has to exceed a certain threshold to be considered fraud. And what happened was they didn't follow the rest of the conversation. What he was talking about was the general application of mortgages, but not the specific case. So the point of the matter is this, okay? They didn't threaten. Well, they can threaten all they want. I don't care. Their motion starts off basically saying that Bill Pulte, the head of the FHFA, relied on a fringe right-wing blogger, Sam Antar, who had no substance to his work. Now, you've been on the air with me how many times? You've read my blog, a lot of your audiences. Everything I do is backed up by the source documents, which are in the public purview. These are open source documents that can be accessed by anybody. Anybody can make their own decision. So what he's trying to do is saying somehow, because Pulte read my blog and obtained this information, it was obtained improperly. That's bullshit. Okay. 50% of frauds, if you go by the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, between 45 and 50% of frauds are learned from tipsters, from whistleblowers. So he's trying to say that all of a sudden invalidates because he's taking information from a right-wing fringe blogger and that there's no substance to it. But all you have to do is read my blog and see all the substance that you want. He's also attacking Letitia. He brought a motion to compel the government to produce documents. Okay? See, what the government does, they produce documents, but also they give you metadata, kind of like a table of contents. Okay, whatever you want in the metadata, we'll give you. But instead, he's got to make this big motion to the court saying that this is an abuse of power, this is whatever. And there's something called Rule 116. The government gives you the metadata, right? And I want that, I want that, I want that, I want that. All you have to do is send a letter. Hey, Pam Bondi or Lindsay Halligan, give me the documents. It's all showmanship. The fact of the matter is, when you go through every one of these documents, which are in the public domain, you look at every single mortgage in New York, she claims it was 4 or less units, sometimes 1, sometimes 2, but the reality is the certificate of occupancy says 5 units. Case closed. Okay, you can't, the certificate of occupancy is the ruling document as far as occupancy. So if she had 4 or less units on her mortgage, that means that she got residential rates on her mortgage and on her insurance, which is also insurance fraud, rather than commercial rates on her mortgage and on her insurance and mortgage fraud. So you have that. Then you have more
Real
evidence.
quickly, so do you think Reuters is just putting out these headlines hoping nobody reads the article?
Right. No. Reuters doesn't even. I know this report. I've helped her on stories before. Sarah Lynch. I don't know what's gotten into her brains. Maybe it's the drinking water where she lives. I don't know. But the point of the matter is that Reuters says that there wasn't enough evidence. The United States federal government turned over 115,000 pages of documents to Letitia James and their attorneys, and 2 terabytes of data. And there's still more pages because they gave this metadata, document this, document that, we'll pull it for you, whatever you want, whatever. Okay. And they asked for an extension of time to review the documents, but I guess there's no evidence. They need 2 more weeks to review the documents. This is the kind of BS that they're giving. They talk one way to the court. They talk one way to reporters. They talk another way in interviews. This is the kind of nonsense that goes on. But, I was a criminal for many years. I understand the nonsense. I understand the inconsistencies. At least when I was a crook, I was much, much more consistent when I lied. These people don't know how to be consistent with their lying, or at least have something to back it up. They have nothing to back it up. You have evidence in her property that she's being indicted on, which is Peroni Avenue. They have the second mortgage. They have a mortgage for a second home, but a tax return says it's not a second home. It's a rental property. And she spent 0 days there. So what is it? Your tax return is wrong, or your mortgage is wrong. If your tax return is wrong, that's income tax evasion because she took depreciation and other expenses that she wasn't supposed to take. There was insurance policy that she took. She took it as a primary occupancy on her insurance from 2000 to 2023, and only in 2024 she finally got around to doing it as a landlord's policy. Her New York State financial disclosures shows that property, but doesn't show the underlying mortgage on it, on that Peroni Avenue property from 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24. Her financial disclosures show 2 other loans on the same property for an amount of approximately $400,000. She puts the value of the property between 100 to 150. And it seems, how do you get this kind of loan? And the mortgages can't be found. They're unrecorded. They're phantom. They don't exist in the property records. So she's got this property, 2 mortgages that she discloses to New York State that don't exist in her property records, and 1 mortgage that does exist, but she doesn't tell New York State. That's another property. Then you got another property in Norfolk, Virginia. It's called Sterling Street. Sterling Street, she purchased with her niece. On that property, she applied for it initially as I am not going to be the primary resident. And the emails show it. August 2nd of 2023, August 3rd of 2023, right? It's not going to be the primary residence, okay? But from August 3rd to August 17th, her loan was kicked out of the AUS system, automated underwriting system, which means that she couldn't get the mortgage based upon that representation. August 17th, she changes it to and says, I am going to be the primary resident. In other words, she's going to give up a job as the AG of New York, give up the case of the lifetime trying Donald Trump, right? And she's going to go to Virginia within 6 months. Bullshit, okay? It's all nonsense. She's trying to claim that it was a mistake, okay? The mistake was lying. The document that she signed saying it's going to be a primary residence is a publicly available document. It was filed with the mortgage. Then you got some of these media people, oh, you're getting into her personal privacy. It's unfair. It's not unfair. By its nature, a mortgage has to be a public document if you want to have a good lien on the property. Yeah, these are the kind of stuff that it is. In his exhibits to in arguing yesterday, there was a motion to dismiss where he says, the government's not turning over documents, which is bullshit. I said, government turned over 115,000 pages, gave him a table of contents for more and 2 terabytes, and he can't even handle that. But they also claim that there was insufficient evidence despite that. What they did was stupid move. I at least when I was a criminal, I had competent lawyers. That's why I got house arrest instead of jail time. These guys over here, what they did was they appended, which is known as Exhibit F. Exhibit F is a report not from the government, not from me, but from the lender itself. And the lender flags it 4 times her mortgage for fraud. Case closed. I guess the people didn't read the documents that they got. They just pinned it on. That's how stupid these people are. I mean, Al Blow, basically, he committed totally negligence, malpractice as a lawyer. But he's raking it in. He's filing frivolous motions to rake in the money. Obviously, they're following my blog. I hope they round it out to the nearest 15 minutes. So if they read it for 8 minutes, it's 15 minutes. They read it for 30. That's why I did a 25-minute thing over there on the screen that you have over there. I wanted to make sure she gets billed for 30 minutes because they usually round it off to the nearest 15 minutes. So this way, it'll cost her about $600 just to read my blog.
So they can do as many TV interviews, press conferences, Reuters, CNN, New York Times. At the end of the day, her own documents are the evidence that seals the deal.
Listen, I could be the biggest asshole in the world, and some people think I am. It's okay, Phil. Okay, it doesn't matter. I could be a Republican, a Democrat, a communist, or a fascist. It doesn't matter. The documents in this case, 12 documents on a Brooklyn home, 1 document in the Queens home, one mortgage in Sterling Street, Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia, and the other one on Peroni Avenue, Virginia. That's 11, 12, 13 mortgages. Every one of them contains false information that cause her to gain a financial benefit in the way of lower interest rates, lower insurance costs, lower down payments, etc., etc., etc. Nobody wants to talk about that. Now, what the government recently did was, as I said, they only indicted her on 1 property, which was the Peroni Avenue property. And it was very narrow. It's kind of like the foot in the door. I think when I was on the air the last time, I told you there's going to be more. So what they did was they now subpoenaed all of the records from New York State that she gave to New York State. In other words, not the published records that I have access to, but the unpublished records, because they're looking at her financial disclosures to New York State, whereby, as I said, there was 1 property where she had 2 mortgages that show up on her financial disclosure, doesn't show up on her doesn't show up in the property records, and then there's a mortgage in the property records, doesn't show up on the financial disclosures. The other property that she bought with a niece doesn't show up at all, the mortgage or the property. And then the Brooklyn property, there's at least 1 mortgage that's on her financial disclosures but cannot be found in any property database. And this is the pattern that we're dealing with. She is a serial liar. She is a serial fraudster. And they can come after me all they want. I did crime. Yeah, you're crazy Eddie CFO. Oh, who gives a shit?
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to pit her documents against name-calling you a fringe right-wing extremist, I think she's going to lose. I hope
so. But listen, who knows what a judge is going to do today? Judges are very politically biased. But let's put it this way. I will hold everybody to account. I don't care who they are or where they're from. I went after Siebert because Siebert had more than enough evidence to bring an indictment, but he didn't. Okay. And what does he do? He leaks the evidence to it's almost like obstruction of justice. Siebert was the former prosecutor that was fired or resigned, depends upon whose side you're asking, by Donald Trump. Whatever. He was the guy that didn't bring charges. That's when Lindsay Halligan was brought on. So you know what they're going to do? They're going to play the procedural game, the this, the that. They may get it dismissed without prejudice, and the case will be tried again. And all Donald Trump has to do, here's the thing. If they take Lindsay Halligan off the case because she wasn't properly appointed, all he has to do is say, I'm appointing you as special prosecutor for the Justice Department. She's back in. And I'll tell you, she's a sharp cookie. She's a sharp cookie because she's taking a large beating from these misogynists in the left-wing press. Beauty queen, MAGA beauty queen, insurance lawyer.
Yeah. Like
Let's put it this
she's
way.
not ugly enough to be a good lawyer. That's what they're.
She's not ugly, right? Let's put it this way. If I were still a criminal, I don't want to go up against her because this time I won't get 6 months house arrest, even with my good lawyers. I get like 6 years in prison.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Speaking of hoping somebody goes to prison, you've been digging in on the Soros, George Soros, Alex Soros. Out of nowhere, he put out this weird tweet over on X, basically saying like everyone needs to quit investigating my dad and me because even Republican watchdog groups don't believe we've committed fraud or done anything wrong. What would you? Why would he come out and say that? Like, to me, that shines more light.
When I was a CFO of Crazy Eddie's, one of the best things that I had for me was clean audits. Okay, from KPMG, nonpartisan, whatever. They were hired to protect the interests of the shareholders. I never failed an audit. Just because one group says it doesn't mean anything. It's kind of like me going in and I smell smoke. Is it arson? Who knows? These what he's trying to do is he's trying to make a straw man argument. The reality is that there's been plenty of people besides me. I haven't concentrated on it. I have to give credit where the credit is due. There's been plenty of people that have looked at how the money comes in, and a lot of it comes in from very, very nefarious organizations, and who is behind them? Who are some of the characters behind them? It's terrorist supporters, Hamas supporters, etc., etc., etc. My tact is, okay, it's a very difficult task to build a criminal case beyond a reasonable doubt. You got to prove there's a lot of large burden of proof. So the easy way to go and dismantle this corrupt syndicate of nonprofits is to use the income tax code, a la Al Capone. And here's the better part of it. You don't even have to charge him criminally under the tax code. All you got to do is charge him civilly under the tax code. You get the subpoena power of a regular litigant, right? And you have a lower burden of proof because it's clear that there are tax violations. When you take money and you give it to a charity, knowing that it's eventually going to go for political action that you can't deduct on your taxes, that's illegal. That's substance over form. It doesn't matter how many organizations you layer through. Hey, I was a money launderer too. I used to do, well, not charities, whatever. But the point is, it doesn't. If he gives money to A, it's a charitable deduction. If he gave money to B, it wouldn't be charitable deduction. But if he gives money to A that then gives it to B, he still got the charitable deduction. In other words, they set up these conduits, so to speak, so he can take whatever contributions he made, have tax deductions on them, and also they're out of his estate. So what he's doing is he's building a generational political machine by having all of these nonprofits. I think he's got 20 billion or 10 billion. Who the hell knows? Whatever. But the point being is that he's going to have a very, very big problem. Okay. I've submitted 11 whistleblower supplementals plus one original, 12 whistleblower submissions to the Internal Revenue Service.
And I mean, there's no evidence out there that he's surrounding himself with elites and very powerful people that could protect him while he goes out and uses his money.
I'll tell you, the dad I have a little respect for as an old-time crook. He kept his head low pretty much, you know? The young son likes to take pictures at the corner of his big condo overlooking the skyline of Manhattan. Look how important I am. Look how smart I am, whatever. Yeah, the son is loose lips. You know, there's a lot I can say about him, but I'm going to skip the salacious part because that's not my thing. But the point being is that his son is not a very, very bright kid. And his son is going to get a lot of trouble by being in the public eye, by the comments that he's making, because every comment that he makes can and will be used against him, not just in the court of law, in the court of public opinion, and in my blog.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I'm excited to see where that ends up going. What final question for you? Going back to Letitia James, you know, a lot of people are running cover for her. How come New York hasn't made a move yet? Are they just still waiting on Virginia?
I don't know for sure. It's completely walled off, the two investigations. I just don't know, but I do know this: there will be superseding indictments. Okay, even if he succeeds in getting a motion to dismiss, in other words, succeeds in dismissing the case will be brought back again. And will be brought back again or whatever. So she's got, she wants to delay the trial through election season. Go right ahead. She's playing into the hands of her adversaries. And I'm not a Republican. She's playing into the hands of her adversaries.
Okay, interesting. Sam, thank you so much for being a right-wing fringe extremist.
No, it was black.
I can't believe they would label you that.
Eric Trump, because I said he was what is he? He was born on third base and he thought he hit a triple.
Yeah.
I mean, I went after Patrick Byrne, a very right-wing guy for many years with Overstock.com. So now I'm going after somebody that happens to be from my own party. It's like, what is this, team sports? This is about crime and justice. That's all it's supposed to be about. And, and what they're trying to make, you see, they can't attack the evidence. What they're trying to do is attack the messenger and the process and to demonize Bill Pulte. I think they've libeled him. They've libeled Lindsey Halligan. Listen, Bill Pulte wore some kind of a shirt to work. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah,
that's the kind of stuff that they're coming up with.
It's all under the umbrella of Trump's revenge. Although, I mean, how many times has Trump personally called you about
Zero. Nobody's giving me any money. Zero. As I've said before, I do talk to law enforcement, as is my right as a whistleblower to talk to law enforcement and provide them with information. That I do. I've been doing that. It's on my blog. I work with federal agencies. That's what I do. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. And if they want to haul me up on a stack of Bibles and say whatever, I say, so what? This is what I do. Okay, I'm reporting a crime. I'm allowed to pick up the phone, send an email, talk to somebody. I'm available to anybody. I'm available to you. I've had meetings with the New York Times. They want it off the record. I give them off the record, no problem. I'll meet with anybody. I don't care because I got nothing to hide. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, you're not hiding it, and you're putting it all on whitecollarfraud.com. If people want to follow Sam's work, better understand this, go over to whitecollarfraud.com. Is there anywhere else that I should send people to follow you online? Or
Twitter, at Sam Antar on Twitter.
Okay, I'll do Twitter and also
I'm much meaner on Twitter than I am in the blog.
Okay, great. I'll do that. Hey, thank you very much for coming on. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You have a great day too, and God bless you, sir.
Thank you.